have a motion.
Yep, I'll make a motion to adjourn from executive session.
Thank you.
Second.
There's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next on our agenda is a joint meeting with the Washington Township trustees. May we have a roll call?
Mayor Pearson,
Here.
Commissioner Grissom,
Here.
Commissioner Vetter,
Here.
Commissioner Lee,
Here.
Trustee Lang,
Here.
Trustee Black,
Here.
Trustee McMacken.
I make a motion that we accept Mr. McMackin's absence as he is sick and home with COVID.
That's a good excuse.
I second it.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. We will now have approval of the minutes.
So, approval of the minutes of the February 2nd, 2021 joint meeting of the Washington Township Trustees and the Piqua City Commission.
May we have a motion to adopt the approval of the minutes?
I'll make a motion to adopt the approval of the minutes from February 2nd, 2021.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to resolution number R-59-22.
A resolution declaring the intention to levy a tax in excess of the 10 mil limitation and requesting the auditor of Miami County, Ohio certification pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 57.05.03.
This resolution is for the renewal of the cemetery income tax levy, which is at .07 mils, and it will go on the October ballot, or November ballot, I'm sorry. And it's not, this is a resolution, quite frankly, to get the amount of money. We have to give this to the auditor, so he'll tell us how much money this levy will raise, and then we'll come back, once that we receive that report from the auditor, and then you will approve to put it on the ballot.
So am I correct then to say we're just approving for that to happen? That's not saying that we're implementing that extra at this time. That will be up for the citizens to vote on.
Yes.
The citizens would vote for the renewal in November.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions from commission? From the trustees from Washington?
I just want to say this continuation will help us start and finish the maintenance building for Forest Hill Cemetery and Arboretum. We've started at a bad time, and we've only collected part of the first years of money, and escalating cost has caused us to be in a pinch, and we hope that this continuation will allow us to have a pool of money to get this building up the way it should be.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any citizen comments? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adopt.
Move for the approval. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Trustees? Thank you. Motion carried. At this time, we'll need a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the joint session.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome to stay. Moving on with the agenda for the regular Piqua City Commission meeting, we will have a presentation. Is she here?
So our presentation is going to be the Chamber of Commerce Jan Mueller Award, and Kathy Sherman will be doing the presentation to officers Adam Kimple and Kirsten Zimmerman.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As president of the Piqua Area Chamber of Commerce, one of the most wonderful job opportunities allotted to me is the chance to present the Jan Mulder Award. Jan Mulder was a police officer killed in the line of duty. The purpose of the award is to recognize a person in a time of crisis or emergency through the disregard of personal safety or through prompt, alert action saves the life or attempts to save the life of an individual or individuals. Eligibility for the award may be presented to any man, woman, or child. The action must occur within the Piqua area and/or be performed by a resident of the Piqua area and/or be performed for the benefit of a resident or business in the area. Police officers and firefighters are eligible for this award in meritorious cases and will be considered and will be up to the discretion of the committee case by case. I'd like to read one of the two nomination letters. This was presented to us by Jeremy Weber from the Piqua Police Department. On August the 29th, 2021, at approximately 5 p.m., Piqua police officers were dispatched to a call where an individual was requesting the welfare check of a 25-year-old female that was possibly suicidal. Officer Peak was able to obtain information on where the female might be headed and what she was driving. This information was passed on to other officers that were working, and it was determined the female was possibly in the area of Garnsey and Main Street. Officer Kimball got on the radio and stated he had the female's vehicle in the river. Officer Zimmerman and Voskuhl responded to the scene quickly to attempt to help Officer Kimball. Officer Zimmerman and Kimball quickly exited their vehicles and took their gun belts and vests off to enter the water. The officers walked to the vehicle and found the female unconscious and were unable to wake her up enough to escort her to the riverbank where Officer Voskuhl was waiting to assist. Officer Kimball and Zimmerman didn't know if there were any more occupants in the vehicle and didn't know if there were kids inside the vehicle and attempted to continue to walk in the river to make sure there were no other injuries. The female was walked over to the cruiser and transported to the local hospital to be checked out for injuries and for mental health treatment. It was later determined that the female also drove at a high rate of speed through a field and down a steep hill, causing her vehicle to hit head-on into the ground, then dove again at a high rate of speed into the river. These officers are currently assigned to Lieutenant Jeremy Weber shift at the Piqua Police Department, and he was nominating Officer Kimball and Zimmerman for the Jan Mulder Citizenship Award. These two officers recognized a female in a time of crisis and entered the river without hesitation to assist and save the life of the female. The city of Piqua can be proud to have such great officers patrolling their city and willing to drop what they're doing to put themselves in harm's way to assist a resident that was suffering from a mental health issue. Also forwarding a nomination request for consideration was Paul Sollenberger, who is here also with us to present the award to both of our officers. We are very lucky to have them. Thank you.
Yes, we are.
They are.
Thank you,
And,
congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And if you guys didn't know that Paul Sullenberger used to be a deputy chief here at Piqua Police Department as well. Used to be one of my deputy chiefs, and it was great to work with him. And the two officers, thank you for your bravery and, willing to do what it takes. I mean, we've seen recently that some do, some don't. You do, and we appreciate what you do, guys. Thank you.
So along with the award that they received from the Piqua Area Chamber of Commerce, we also have an internal awards process that results in when we get nominations from officers or members of the department, and then those nominations get forwarded to an awards committee who then determine if or make a recommendation to the chief of police to determine if this should be issued or not. And in this particular case, with the same facts that are presented to you, the department head is going to issue tonight the Law Enforcement Excellence Award to both officers in recognition and appreciation of their service to the community in the form of a meritorious service award. And the language on the award is you are awarded the Meritorious Service Award for your exemplary actions related to the water rescue of an emotionally disturbed person from the Great Miami River on August 29, 2021. Your response was selfless, and without concern for your own safety, you acted quickly to help a troubled citizen out of a life-threatening situation. Without your intervention, at great personal risk, human life could have been lost in this incident. So at this time, we'll present the Meritorious Service Award to each officer that also comes with a ribbon that can go on their dress uniforms.
That's nice.
Goofy. So goofy.
Thank you. Thank you, Val.
Thank you for your service.
Yep. Nice.
So the next item on the agenda is the proclamation, Mill Brothers Centennial Anniversary. And what I'd like to share with you is that the Mills brothers, John Jr., Herbert, Harry, and Donald, born in Piqua in the early 1900s, were an American jazz and traditional pop vocal quartet, beginning their career in 1925 as Four Boys and a Guitar. The Mills brothers cut their first record in 1927 and gave their first radio performance on February 9th, 1927. The Mills brothers were inducted into the Vocal Group Hall of Fame in 1998 and the Piqua Civic Hall of Fame in 2000. So now I want to make sure that we have recognized their centennial anniversary of the Mills Brothers Quartet, and we call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens. Thank you.
Drop the award? I'm gonna find out who did that.
All right, moving forward, we will have the consent agenda.
So the first item on the consent agenda is the approval of the minutes from May 3rd, 2022 regular commission meeting, May 9, 2022 executive session, and May 17, 2022 executive session. Resolution number R-60-22, a resolution of appreciation for the public service of Michael R. Castro as a city employee.
I'll go ahead and read,
Don't we have to approve the minutes of the,
That's part of.
we will.
oh, there you go.
A resolution of appreciation for the public service of Michael R. Casto as a city employee. Is there family or is he here tonight? Okay. Whereas Michael R. Casto has retired as a wastewater operator with the city of Piqua, and whereas his retirement follows 32 years of faithful and dedicated service to the city and its citizens. Now therefore be it resolved by the Commission of the City of Piqua, Miami County, Ohio, all members elected thereto concurring that in recognition and appreciation of the public service of Michael R. Casto with the City of Piqua, this commission tenders its unanimous and respectful tribute by this resolution, which shall be a matter of public and permanent record. This resolution shall take effect and be in force from and after the earliest period allowed by law. Cindy Pearson, Mayor.
The next item is a resolution number R-61-22, a resolution appointing Cindy Pearson as a member to the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. Next resolution, R-62-22, a resolution appointing Chris Smeezing as a member to the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. Next resolution, number R-63-22, a resolution appointing Kirsten French as a member to the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission. Resolution number R-64-22, a resolution appointing Cindy Pearson as a member to the Piqua Energy Board. Resolution number R-65-22, a resolution appointing Chris Grissom as a member to the Piqua Utility Board. Finally, resolution number R-66-22, a resolution appointing Chris Grissom as a member to the Utility Board. And that wraps up the consent agenda.
All right, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right,
Second.
is there a second? Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda has been adopted. Moving on to old business, ordinance number 0-5-22 is the second reading.
An ordinance repealing sections 39.01 and 39.03 and replacing sections 39.01 and 39.03 of the Piqua City Code of Ordinances Municipal Tax on Motor Vehicle License. Ben Gooden, Acting Finance Director, will be presenting the staff report.
Thank you very much, Commissioners, Mayor. So back in 2019, the state passed a bill allowing taxing districts an additional $5 motor vehicle tax license to be adopted. The last time we adopted this resolution, or excuse me, this ordinance was in 2009, effective 2010. I'm requesting the commission to repeal and replace the current ordinance, which will increase the amount from $5 to $10, effective January 1st, 2023. This will effectively increase our revenue for our street maintenance fund by approximately $75,000 to $80,000.
Thank you. Any comments from commissioners?
I know one question we asked last time was surrounding areas, had their rates changed or were they adopting this resolution?
To my knowledge, no one has went to adopt this change in the surrounding areas as of yet.
Okay.
So is everybody at $10 or is everybody at 5 or what?
So there are 6 different $5 increments. 3 or 4 of them are county controlled, and there used to be 2 that are specifically for municipalities. Now there's 3 comparables. I know there are 2 other areas that are at the max 30 right now, and almost everybody else is at 25 out of the 6 allowed.
So we're the low guy, huh?
This will put us to 30 total for the overall motor vehicle tax license.
We'd be at the top, and everything that we could charge for, we would be essentially.
Correct.
So,
I'd also like to waive the third reading. I apologize, due to the time restraint that this has to be passed into the county by the 1st of July to be effective 1 of 2023.
Okay.
I'll make a comment. I personally don't want to waive the 3 reading because it has an effect. I'm not personally in favor of it. We passed a levy to help with our street funds. And so with that, I just think right now with the way the economy is, increasing that rate's probably not the best timing, knowing that we could do it in a future year.
Okay. At this point, the ordinance that we have before us, you are asking to waive the third reading, so I would need a motion to do that. Is there a motion?
I'm not in favor of it either at this point. I mean, people are going to get hit next year, and the way the economy is as well. I'm not real thrilled with it, so I wouldn't be in favor of passing or waiving the third reading.
Okay.
I know it would be helpful for our street funds, and the cost for us to do streets has increased as well too, but that's just my opinion on it.
Same.
So at this point, do we need to
Just leave it as a
just
second reading.
leave it as a second reading?
That's correct.
Okay, we will do so. Moving on to
New business?
new business with ordinance number 0-7-22, first reading.
An ordinance repealing Schedule A of Chapter 33 of the Pickwick Code and adopting a new Schedule A of Chapter 33 of the Pickwick Code relating to wages of certain municipal employees. Catherine Bogan, Human Resources Director, will be presenting the staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. Schedule A covers the salaries of our full-time, non-union employees. The wages for certain classifications before you will be adjusted in response to organizational restructuring for operational efficiencies. Additionally, certain classifications have been added to this schedule to reflect human capital needs to support our community responsiveness. I would also ask that you waive the three reading this evening. With all due respect, some of these changes we need to implement as recently as June 1st, ideally by June 30th. So I'd ask for your consideration of that as well. Thank you.
I'm going to need, well, first of all, are there any comments about the ordinance from commissioners? None? Any comments from our citizens? Okay. At this point, I would like to have a motion to waive the three reading rule.
I'm okay with waiving this three reading rule for ordinance -0-7-22.
Is there a second? Hearing no second, then we will not be able to pass it, correct?
Anybody can second it. It requires all four of you to vote for it, though.
You can second it, is what he's saying.
Okay. I will go ahead and second it. All those in favor of the,
You should have a roll call on that, please.
okay.
Absolutely. Commissioner Grissom?
Yay.
Mayor Pearson?
No.
Commissioner Vetter?
Yes.
Commissioner Lee?
No.
The motion has not been adopted or carried.
Okay, so move to the,
Leave it at second.
move to the second.
The ordinance will
move
be
to
stand
second
as
reading.
read then. And
Okay. So does it move to the second reading then?
We'll go to the second reading is what
Yep.
you're doing.
Yes,
So
it
you
will
move
move
to
to
the
the
next one.
second reading.
Okay. You want me to go ahead and take the ball and run with it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is resolution number R-67-22, a resolution authorizing a purchase order to Global Enterprise, Inc. for the purchase of a burn building for the fire department. Brent Polschneider, Fire Chief, will be presenting the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This is a process that I've been excited about for quite a few years now, the opportunity to repurpose the old water treatment plant into a regional safety training center. And we were presented with the opportunity about 3 years ago to go down to the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission and submit a request for a burn building that was reviewed by their Priority Development Advocacy Committee. And it was advanced through their scoring process, and it was supported by State Senator Huffman that would be fully funded by state capital funds that came through the oversight of Bowling Green State University, which has partnered with us with an MOU and joint use agreement for the facility. This facility is going to be approximately 24 by 40 in its footprint, be approximately 4 stories high, allow us to do live burn trainings. We're the only one in the contiguous county area that would have a burn building, so it's a draw for a lot of fire departments in the area to come to. So it's very valuable. It's one of those that's rare as far as being around, and we were awarded $400,000 through the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission submission that came through. With the seeking of what we had, we went through the General Services Administration, which is GSA, and it's comparable to our state bid process. And we actually have a price that came back at $350,000 for the structure. So that, in the conditions, current conditions for construction, we thought was quite good, and we're asking for a 10% contingency on it. And it'll be assembled out of state. It'll be like a modular set, and then it'll be shipped in, and then they'll be on site for a couple weeks doing the assembly. The company that did it,
Where?
that would do it. So,
Where's the location of this going to be?
for the company or for
For the burn building?
the burn building will be as you go in the gates just off of where the police training facility is. It'll be just to the left in there. And
Nice.
we've got a space that was set up, so we did a site planning with the engineers to look at it. So it's optimal. We have a fire hydrant right there inside. It's all secured in a fencing area and that, so we don't have to worry about the security and that with that. So we've already had activity at that site with research testing, and also Bowling Green has come in and conducted some classes in there for specialty rescue. So this building, in addition to the facility, will be a great enhancement to all of us for being able to do that. It'll also have the ability for police officers, if they want to do practice of search and clearing buildings, you know, as they're going through and looking for bad guys, if you will. But they will have the opportunity to come in and use that building as well. And it'll be set up to do rappelling, so if they want to do rope work. So with your consideration, we're greatly hoping for support on this to pass this, and then we'll get this project moving along.
Any concern for EPA runoff or foam water?
We will not be doing any foam use there. We've been through that process. We're fully aware with the concerns of certain types of firefighting foam. We do not have any of that in our inventory anyhow. But we also have put in containment areas out there as well to make sure that there's been no runoff to the river through any of the storm drains. And our previous water department superintendent, we've made sure that we've gone through a thorough plan with that. So oversight would be Regional Air Pollution Control Agency. We'll have to submit applications when we do testing out there and that, so they'll review all of that. So we're making sure we're in compliance with everybody.
Where do you currently train? Or how?
For us to go and do live burn training, we have an agreement with Lewisburg Fire Department. So our equipment and our staff, we have to travel to Lewisburg, Ohio to have a facility that's comparable to what this is. It's not as large as what we were able to get in for our request, so this will allow us to even have a wider array of uses of it. But it's quite an event when we do this, and we we plan this out about every other year to go down there because we're looking at about an hour on the road traveling. We're taking back roads. We're not taking our equipment on the interstates because we don't maintain the current interstate speeds with what we're trying to travel everything down there. And then we have to plan for the staffing movement down there and back to get everybody access time to train. So we've got to still maintain the coverage and protection for the city plus rotating. So it's a 2-3 day process trying to do that. We're able to just go ahead and muster up, and we can bring our other departments that we have mutual aid agreements with to come and train with us right there on site. So the chiefs that I've been talking to, they're pretty excited about that as well for that capability.
So did I understand correctly, budget-wise, it says 400,000, but was that all awarded to us from the Miami
Yes.
Valley? So really the budget's zero, or?
It's a negative impact on our
Okay.
budget. Bowling Green does have the oversight on that to make sure that we're doing all of the requirements with it being a state funding award. And they do have an administrative oversight fee, but it's no more than $6,000 out of the whole process. So this is budget zero for anything that'll be coming
all
out
to
of
make
the
sure.
city budget, which is what our challenge was when we started this journey back in 2016 on a what if. You know, it's like if you can, don't touch anything as far as the general funds or safety funds or anything along those lines. So we were very prudent, diligent, working hard on that, trying to find those avenues. So,
Awesome.
and very
Great work.
grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Sure.
Other departments that come in to use the burn facility, will they pay a fee for that, or is that part of the
We're
agreement?
looking at a fee schedule. Bowling Green had put a proposal fee schedule together in the joint use agreement that was brought forth to the commission last summer and reviewed. It would just depend on what we're looking at as far as number of times in and things like that. If they're doing a joint training with us, certainly we wouldn't look to at that event, but if they're looking to have instructors or if they're looking for time themselves, then there are a couple fire departments in the Southwest Ohio area that have these, and we have copies of what they have as far as their agreements. So we'll work with that with our finance department and city manager and that over time to make sure we're doing a fair and right scheduling of fees and use to it.
Thank you. Any more comments from commissioners? Comments from the citizens?
Good evening. Jeff Lang, 9586 North State Route 66. A couple years ago, I called the chief and was concerned about a terrible stench over Swift Run Lake. And there was a blue-gray haze over the water. And when I talked to him about that, he said there were burning some, I believe, car battery harnesses.
No, it was lithium-ion batteries. That's Bowling Green State University was doing a research on those, and if anybody's seen what has happened with some of those with Tesla events and that, but what they're trying to do is come up with the standards for the safety where they're working with National Fire Protection Association, Underwriters Lab, some others that are up there, the Canadian comparable. So they were doing some of those. We went through the EPA for request and processing, and then RAPCA was notified as well. So we had those where it's at. The event that you're talking about, they had that going on where there was a thermal inversion where the weather front came through that day, and they had an event where they were actually running longer than what they were planning. So we had a conversation with that, and then we also provided what your concerns were when you went on the property to RAPCA with the video, and we had everything we're doing is being upfront, and I think when we had that conversation, we were doing that where it's everything's firefighter safety intent, citizen safety intent. So we were, trying to, be all out front of what we were doing. So.
My question on that is Swift Run is public access on the water, and even though it was an inversion and that cloud hung over the water, I was riding my bike that day back to the house, and I was coughing, and I don't know what was in there, but it was bad. And I just want to make sure every precaution is taken, not only to consider what you're burning in this burn building, but also in those 2 container boxes you have down there, because when those fans are exhausting out of there, there's some nasty black bluish smoke coming out of there. And yeah, you can't see an inversion, but if there's a chance of an inversion or whatever, what precautions are going to be made to protect the citizens that might be out in that water, or even those that are riding their bike or walking along the bike path, which is not more than 100 feet away from where this building is going to go?
The building that we're putting up, that's going to be straw and skids, wood. That's
No.
what we're doing with that. We're making sure that we're not doing anything where we've got to be concerned with, you know, air issues or runoff or anything like that. And a matter of fact, when we do that, you're probably going to see an initial amount of smoke, and then when we go in there, we're just hitting it and wetting it down. So it's definitely not going to be anything where we're going to be involved. It's just enough to simulate the conditions of where we go through.
Does Bowling Green have the right to go in there and do testing their own without asking for your consent on what they burn in those test
No, they
chambers?
have to notify, and then it has to go through the process with the EPA and RAPCA.
Okay.
So those are, RAPCA has a permit that they issue, and it's on site with them when they're doing the testing. And then the EPA, they review it, and then they defer to RAPCA, and we just went through this process again.
Are material safety data sheets for the items they are burning on site when they're burning them?
They have them electronically,
Okay.
yeah.
Right.
So everybody's trying to get away from paper, so what they do is they'll have it on an electronic file that they'll
And then
pull.
they post a sign out by the highway that says testing in progress, correct?
Yes,
they
or
have a
training, depending on what we're doing.
Do they have a sign like that up on the bike path?
They have it pointing up at the bike path, so they set it in the back fence area there, which is
Yeah.
pointing up.
Can I correct you on that? That sign down at the fence area isn't legible from up on the bike path. It might be better to take that sign and put it on the bike path.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Any more comments from the citizens? All right, at this point, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
And it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution has been carried.
Next item on the agenda is resolution number R-68-22. A resolution authorizing a purchase order to Palmer Truck Kenworth of Dayton for the purchase of a 2022 Kenworth 2T80 plow truck for the Public Works Department. Brian Brookhart, Public Works Director, will be presenting the next 2 staff reports.
Good evening. If you remember last September, this commission approved a resolution to Palmer Trucks to purchase a new 2022 plow truck for $162,777.15. And Palmer Truck recently contacted us regarding a price increase on this truck that we ordered. We contacted the Sourcewell administration, and as you know, Sourcewell competitively bids municipal vehicles and equipment for the state of Ohio. And we called him to discuss the increase of cost for this truck. And I spoke with Jed Klein at Sourcewell, and he stated that this is an unprecedented time in government purchasing for vehicles and equipment, and noted that every manufacturer is having to raise their prices. The manufacturers are being forced to increase their prices due to inflation costs that are affecting them and everyone else like us. The price for this plow truck has been increased by $11,298.44. The new cost for the plow truck will be $174,075.59. We originally budgeted $180,000 for this truck. If this is approved, we should receive this truck by the end of 2022, as long as the current scheduling stays on track. And as a reminder, this plow truck is replacing a 2005 vehicle that's exceeded its service life.
I'm sorry, when did you say we plan to receive it?
We should have this truck by the end of the year. The truck itself is already at Palmer. It was delivered late in May. They're just waiting to send it to the bodybuilder based on this approval for the additional funding.
So if it was already there and built and arrived, why was there an increase in price?
Yeah, we've already paid.
It,
Contracted.
yeah, I asked that as well. So they have the opportunity to increase the price at any point on any Sourcewell contract due to costs that they would incur that are outside of something that's normal. And this is, I mean, these times are certainly anything more than normal, and what everyone is seeing on increases in cost, they can't afford to accept that. They don't actually, Kenworth doesn't actually pay for the truck until it touches their lot. And the bodybuilders, they don't pay for what they purchased until it hits the lot. You know, they estimate these costs based on, normally, I've never had to bring a vehicle back before, ever. I'm not sure how many people really ever have for a large increase like this. This is very unprecedented, and I wish that wasn't the case, but we're seeing this everywhere. If we don't take this vehicle, there are over 138 municipalities lined up to take that body, because just about every manufacturer is over 100 truck bodies behind on builds. We might be able to get an estimate for a new truck this year, but they won't even give you a bid for it based on, they don't know when they can get the equipment, when they can get the vehicles. It's a problem nationwide right now. I know it's a large increase in the cost, but based on our current fleet and the age of our older trucks, I highly suggest moving forward with getting this truck.
Are we guaranteed not to have any additional increases?
They can't guarantee that. However, there should not be beyond this.
What happens to the 2005?
We will sell that on Gov Deals to recoup some of the cost, which I'm hoping to be able to recoup.
Hopefully it's
all
11,000
this.
or better.
If everything's going for more. We should
Yes,
go for it.
used vehicles are going for a lot more than what they were, so hopefully we'll make out on that, and that'll help cover some of the increase in the cost on this vehicle.
How many snowplows do we have?
We currently have 8.
You said we were originally budgeted at 180,000?
Correct. That was the original budget number.
Is there any additional accessories or things that need to be added on to this that would put us over that?
Everything is included on this truck.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments from commissioners? Any comments from our citizens? Okay, then I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next item on the agenda is resolution number R-69-22, a resolution requesting final legislation to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the East Ash Street US 36 resurfacing project. Brian?
Yes. City Commission approved a preliminary legislation on March 1st, 2022 for the engineering department to continue working with ODOT to get the resurfacing of East Ash Street completed. The resurfacing will start just west of Scott Drive to just east of Keenly Drive on US 36. The project will consist of milling and resurfacing the pavement, repairing base issues that exist in the eastbound lane that I'm sure you're all aware of and have driven over, and install new pavement markings throughout that area. The current construction estimate is now at $1,266,000. The city will be responsible for approximately $430,770,000 of the project cost. The project costs have gone up, estimates have gone up considerably due to the current inflation, as I discussed with the truck. ODOT does believe that this is a conservative estimate to go forward with. Upon commission approval, ODOT will send this project out to bid later this month with an estimated bid opening date of July 14th of this year. If the bids are accepted and fall within this funding, the anticipated start date would be mid-August. The duration of the project will be approximately 55 days, with a completion date of sometime in mid-October. And it all depends on the start date of the project. I did check with the finance director, and he noted that we have the funding available in the 103 account to move forward with the project.
How bad will traffic be during those 55 days?
Yeah,
To a crawl.
it'll be a lot slower during that process, unfortunately, but the repairs out there direly need to be made.
Yeah.
We made some pretty significant repairs out there last year to help with what was going on the eastbound lanes. That's starting to occur again in those same spots. There's also some more rutting just a little east of Scott Drive that you've probably all noticed has gotten worse. And that will be addressed as well in this resurfacing. I highly suggest we move forward with this. If we don't, our staff will have to go back out and make more repairs out there again. And that'll just continue to add to the cost out there. So since ODOT is willing to help us with this project, and fortunately we don't have to pay all that, yet our share is still, we'll be looking at about $430,000. Now, if that estimate comes in under that, we will get back whatever we don't have to pay underneath that $430,000.
Any questions, comments from commissioners? Any comments from our citizens? All right, then I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution R-69-22.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Resolution carried.
Next item is resolution number R-70-22, a resolution accepting for statutory purposes a budget for the calendar year 2023. Ben Gooden, Acting Finance Director, will be presenting the next two staff reports.
Thank you very much, Commissioners, Mayor. So the state requires the city to pass a tax budget by mid-July of each year. This is the preliminary 2023 budget used by the county for state filing purposes. Our normal 23 budget process will begin next month. This was prepared with input from the City Department's administration. The total tax budget for 2023 is projected to be $101 million, a decrease of $1.2 million. It's broken down there in your packets of those major decreases, with the general fund decreasing $300,000, parks $1.2 million. These are due to one-time projects being completed this year. The street income tax decrease of $300,000, also another project, the bridge over the Giles Bridge project to be completed this year. And then the enterprise funds, electric fund to increase $300,000, water system to increase $200,000, wastewater to increase $400,000, and pool to decrease $300,000, which was the budgeted 2022 demolition of the pool. So that will go down, which comes to the total $1.2 million decrease of the county tax budget.
Any comments? Commissioners? Any comments from our citizens? entertain a motion.
I'll move the approval of Resolution R 7022.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution carried.
Next item on the agenda is Resolution Number R-71-22, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with the Regional Income Tax Agency, RETA, to participate in the Regional Council of Governments for administration and collection of municipal income tax. Ben?
Thank you again. So the city of Piqua intends to partner with the Regional Income Tax Agency to assist with the administration and collection of the city's municipal income tax. This partnership will allow the city to provide improved customer service through their tools, increase tax collection with their abilities, and gain access to more real-time data for municipal income taxes. RETA is the largest income tax collection and administration entity in the state, which allows them to access multiple levels of information across many jurisdictions. This allows us to provide more accurate processing and quicker processing for our citizens when it comes to filing municipal income taxes. They also have an entire collection systems which will, and we presume, to significantly increase the city's collections rate based on our current collection processes.
What is the cost of the service to the city?
So the cost of the service, they do a 3% holding on their collections, and then at the end of every year, they calculate the cost per city based on how much they collected per city compared to their overall collections and how many processes they did for Piqua compared to all processes. On average, through all of the other entities and other municipalities I've talked to, it's roughly about 1.3 to 1.5% of the collections that they do per year. That would estimate roughly $250,000 per year.
When we heard the presentation at the last work session, if my memory is good, we estimated that this action would increase revenue to the city from $40,000 to $60,000. Is that accurate?
So it would decrease costs based on our current costs to run the income tax by about 40 to 60. We didn't provide, nor do we have a real true estimate of increased revenues based on their collections.
So we're anticipating spending $250,000, and we're not sure what kind of additional revenue would come back to the city because of that?
Yeah, above what's projected, we're not, I couldn't provide an approximation of how much more our revenue would increase with their collection capabilities. Where this saves us is the comparables with how much it costs us currently budgeted to run the tax to how much it would cost based on their projections of the $250,000 to RETA.
I'm trying to recall the presentation that we heard at the last meeting, and that's where I'm coming from.
So they were comparing what we had budgeted for the income tax department as expenses in 2022 compared to their calculation of about 1.5% of our projected revenue of costing about, like I said, $250,000. The comparable there is our expenses for the tax department was about $40,000 to $60,000 more. So going with RETA would save us that much in expenses.
What would be the extent of the agreement, length of the agreement?
It would be ongoing, and it would take a 90-day written notice of cancellation.
So if we don't like it and it doesn't work out for us, we say no thanks and give them 90 days?
Correct.
Commissioner, I'd like to add something as well. So over the last year and a half I've been here, we haven't been actively seeking delinquent taxes. And so this gives us an opportunity to collect the outstanding taxes and also the fees associated with that. After 1 year with Rita, we should have an idea of what that delta looks like, but currently it's 0 for us, so anything will be an improvement.
We get $1, that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions or comments? It is citizens' questions or comments. All right.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
All right. I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution carried.
Next item on the agenda is resolution number R-72-22, a resolution authorizing the amended lease of a portion of parcel number N44-250355. Chris Smeezing, our Community and Economic Development Director, will actually be presenting the rest of the staff reports throughout the evening. So, Chris.
Good evening. So first, let me point out in the title, it says amended lease. These are actually new leases, this one and the next item, so forgive the error in the typing there. The item that you have before you is, this is to allow MetroNet, the data service provider who you've seen all over town installing their infrastructure, to be able to lease a small portion of city-owned property just west of College Street, alongside the Ohio to Indiana trail alignment towards Lock 9 Park there. And this location was actually previously occupied by a Piqua Power System substation that was decommissioned and removed several years back. So the property has a history of serving for utility infrastructure needs, although it is no longer needed for the city's utility infrastructure. So the request from MetroNet is to be able to lease a small portion of land as shown in the exhibit. The terms of the lease would be a 25-year lease period at $25,000. And they are ready to move forward with this as soon as possible, and that will allow them to finish out some of the infrastructure install that they've been working so diligently on and be able to bring those services to our citizens.
Any potential impact on residents in that area?
No impact on residents. It's to the rear and beyond the existing business cash land that sits along the street there.
The old Pizza Hut building, is that what?
Yeah. Yep, formerly a Pizza Hut. So really, it's kind of tucked in behind everything. The residents along Water Street are fairly they're a fair distance removed from where this hut would be located.
Will they maintain it and the hut as well as the ground around it?
They will,
Weeds?
yes. As part of their lease agreement, they'll be obligated to maintain their facilities just like any other property owner or resident in the community or business. And so they too will be responsible for the maintenance of the grounds around it, which really it's very utilitarian. There's not a whole lot more to it other than the footprint of the infrastructure. And the area that they're leasing out to College Street is simply the underground conduit for the wires to get from the poles back to the hut.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? None. Citizens, questions or comments? All right. I move to adopt Resolution R-72-22.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Next item is resolution number R-74-22, a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign the program year 2022 CHIP program partnership agreement by and between the Miami County Board of Commissioners, the City of Piqua, and the City of Troy for the Ohio Department of Development Community Housing Impact and Preservation CHIP program. Chris?
Wait a minute.
I can certainly speak to that one, but I think we're on
Oh, I
Resolution
did?
70.
Yeah, the second one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Number 17.
Okay. R-73-22, a resolution authorizing the lease of a portion of parcel number N44-250115.
You're all right.
This, like the previous item, is a request for the lease of a small area of property owned by the City of Piqua. This is in relationship to NK Telco, another data service provider in our community who you've authorized leases to in the past. They have a hut currently on RM Davis, and they have facilities at the Roadside Park north of town. This installation will allow them to continue to expand their infrastructure to the southern portion of the community in anticipation of their opportunity to service our business community with high data speeds. Their focus is more on the business side more than the residential, although they do hope at some point in the future to be able to expand to provide services to the residential side of the market as well. Same terms as the previous lease. This would be for a 25-year period at $25,000. And the footprint of the building is not all that significant. It would sit south of our number 1 substation, south of the former power plant, and it would be sited so that it doesn't interfere with the new trail connection that will come through there or any of the other current activities or contemplated future expansion needs for the substation.
Is that included in the Giles Park area, or is that on the other side of the trench there?
Yep. You could refer to all that as the Goodrich Giles Park area, yes.
And what impact might that have on the proposed pedestrian walk bridge across the river?
So when the current walk bridge where the old utility lines ran across the river goes away, and the new bridge is put in further to the south off of the parking lot at Goodrich Giles, the trail alignment will come up through the current parking area south of the power plant and come along the front side of substation number 1 over a new culvert that will be installed over Rush Creek. I think it's Rush. That's not right, but whatever that creek is. And then that'll extend south to the parking lot where it will connect with the new bridge over the river. The siting of the hut we carefully considered those new improvements that were coming through there for the trail system to make sure that the hut would not interfere with that.
Maybe we can work out a deal where the culvert that goes in will stop the swimming going on behind the river. Public comment, I guess. But when we clean up Giles Park, the neighborhood association cleans up Giles Park twice a year, and maybe you wouldn't be surprised at the things we find down in there, including mattresses and all kinds of things, but it's currently being used, at least on occasion, by what we'll maybe call swimmers. How's that?
Any other comments from commissioners? Any comments from our citizens? All right, then I move to adopt resolution R-73-22.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution carried.
Okay, now it's time for resolution number R-74-22. Please don't make me recite that again.
No, you're
I'm
good.
okay if
You're
you're
good.
okay. Thank you. This item is a partnership agreement that we're being asked to authorize, which would allow for the city of Piqua, along with our neighboring community to the south, to partner with Miami County in seeking funds through the CHIP program available at the state to allow us to operate a new cycle of the CHIP program. So typically every 2 years, we apply for these funds. A couple years back, the state of Ohio decided that they wanted the localities to partner with the county agency to submit their applications and administer the program. So we've been doing that for a couple cycles now. That's what we would be doing here. This is actually only 1 year removed from the last cycle that we received funding in 2021 program year. So the probability of our being funded is fairly low, but the authorities at the county felt like we'd be remiss if we didn't at least apply for it and see if we maybe receive the money. So the application would be $750,000 in total. $275,000 of that would be for projects in Piqua. A portion of that $275,000 is our existing program income, which we're obligated to, when we receive repayment of these CHIP loans that go out, we're required to respend it, right? So that would allow us to do 3 owner rehab projects and 4 owner repair projects should we receive the funding. So this is simply the agreement that has to be in place for us to satisfy the criteria for the county to be able to submit the application to request the funding. It does not assure us that we're going to receive the funding.
Who will administer it for the Piqua projects?
So in Piqua, it's the Development Department. My office administers the CHIP funding. And then in Troy, they've got an individual in office and a person in their development office who does the same. And then the county administers the dollars that are spent across the county.
Is this the place where the fair housing information comes out of, the CHIP program?
It is related to CHIP. That's one of the requirements of CDBG in general, that there be a number of fair housing forums throughout the year to keep our citizens apprised of what their rights are.
My memory is we have an obligation to periodically hold meetings to advise people of the Fair Housing Project, and both renters and leasers of property.
That's right. As a stipulation of the utilization of these funds, whether it comes from the CDBG allocation for CHIP or the home funds or the various programs that we're able to utilize on occasion, we have duties and responsibilities to help inform and educate the community about fair housing laws, along with some other requirements that the program imposes upon us to make sure we're in accordance with their requirements.
I think this is one of the program's really good for, the city, and definitely promoting, we've talked about, the fairness behind it and making sure that there's oversight and just ensuring the citizens that, that is something that we monitored and we work through. And, we welcome to be able to try to provide these types of programs for our citizens. And just promoting it and getting it out there so people are aware is great.
I would tell you, it is a good resource, and I'm grateful that we have it available. It's not widely understood. We get $275,000 in funding, for example, in this request. Should we receive it, that's 7 projects. We currently have a general wait list of over 100 people who are asking for what resources are available to them. And then when funding becomes available, we notify that list of 100 people that, okay, we have some funds available. Now's the time to notify us if you want to proceed. If they notify us, then there's an income eligibility process that has to take place to determine if they actually meet the program requirements to be eligible. And if they don't, then they're simply, not eligible and they have to look elsewhere. If they do, the ones who respond are taken in the order that the responses are received. So it's kind of a fairness methodology, if you will. So we process the request in the order that they're received. And that's typically how it's done in other communities that we've discussed this with.
So does that reset every year? Do people know that, do they need to reapply each year?
So say we have 20 individuals who respond to that mailing, right?
So it's from when that mailing goes out, kind of?
Yeah, of that list of 100, we notify all of them, and 20 of them respond. And the first 10 we get through income verification, and by then we've spent all the funds that were available this cycle. The ones who didn't get service go back onto the wait list to be notified the next time there's funding available.
So they do stay on that wait list that's recurring? That's
Yep.
not something you got to reapply for every year to
Nope.
get back on that?
Nope. We
Okay,
put 'em back
just
on
want to
there.
make sure people are aware.
And,
'Cause I wasn't aware of that.
The information's out there, but because it is the interest far exceeds the capacity of the program, we don't go out and do a lot of advertising or promotion of the program because, like you
Understood.
say, there's already more folks looking to use it than there's funds available.
Thanks, I appreciate that explanation.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other comments? Citizen comments? All right, then, I move that we adopt resolution number R-74-22.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is resolution number R-75-22, a resolution authorizing the lease of part of public right-of-way adjacent to parcel N44-001-020 for an outdoor dining area. Chris?
Thank you. This item relates to the location at 311 North Main Street, which is a restaurant space that was recently vacated. It's in the process of being reoccupied by a new restaurant operator, which will be referred to as Referee Sports Bar and Grill. It's an established restaurant operator who has a track record of being successful, and they're really excited to develop this sports bar concept. In doing so, they're refreshing the building. They're doing some remodeling on the interior to give it their own look and feel. And they also want to improve their outdoor dining opportunity that they can offer their patrons. Historically, there has been about a 6-foot wide strip at the south edge of the building that has been leased for this operation or for the operation of a restaurant in this space. But more recently, that 6-foot strip has not really been that utilized, citing the fact that it's so narrow, it's difficult for the seating to work with the service staff getting through there and so on and so forth. What the new tenant would like to do is expand that from 6 feet to about 20 feet. So it would essentially extend all the way out to where the landscaping is currently. And it would run from where it exists, where the edge nearest Main Street exists today, all the way back to Canal Place and connect in with the rear outdoor dining area. So it would significantly increase the size of their outdoor dining space. And as part of it, they would be making a pretty sizable investment in removing and replacing a portion of concrete to level up the surfaces and make it a nice, clean, flat space. So it's easy to set the tables and chairs and for folks to be able to occupy it and use it without trip hazards. Again, it would dramatically increase their availability of outdoor dining opportunity. So they're eager to move forward. Carlos actually called last Friday and said, hey, my concrete guy's here. And I said, whoa, we need to get your lease in place. But I think, our being able to get it here this evening is certainly consistent with what we've done with him and other businesses in terms of trying to be very responsive and timely with getting them what they need to be able to do great things in our downtown. So I think this is an exciting project. I think, the community is very interested in having more restaurant options, and we're glad to see this space reoccupied in such a short period of time.
How about the landscaping in or near the statue? Hasn't that been done by the Piqua Garden Club or something? I think they've been involved in that. Do they have any input, any comment?
I've not had any discussion with the Garden Club. I know what they focus on seems to be a little bit more directly around the Gentile statue. Okay. This is at the very northern edge, and the amount of landscaping that would be disturbed will be very minimal. It's existing concrete. There's about 6 feet that was previously outdoor dining, and then it's the walkway from the Canal Place out to Main Street. With this improvement, you would either turn and go towards Gentile, and then there's concrete walk along the triangular face of the parking field. So it'd be a short detour for pedestrians. Or as we look at doing the incremental improvements at Main and High that we discussed previously, it might be a good opportunity for us to reevaluate the landscaping and make sure that what we have in there is what's suitable for the space, and or if we need to introduce a new walkway to make that a more direct route as it is today, we could certainly add that as well.
I'd suggest contact with the club.
Absolutely.
Just because they've given a lot of personal hours and probably some personal expense in terms of
Absolutely.
doing it, so.
Absolutely. And we coordinate with Main Street as well.
Yeah.
Main Street, I think, is really kind of their liaison for a lot of the stuff they do down there. So we would absolutely coordinate.
Been a little while ago.
So am I correct on saying, so that there is that walkway now to get to the front of the building, that will be gone? That will all be outdoor spacing up to that triangle
Yes.
landscaped area? And so I might suggest when contacting them, see, can we put any kind of pathway through there on the outside of that? Maybe even just some stepping stones or something of that nature, because I'm afraid people are going to end up walking through their area. And even though it's, not designed that way or won't be designed that way, I'm afraid it's going to happen and ruin some of their spots.
Yeah, I think their space will be controlled with a perimeter railing for liquor license requirements, but I totally agree. I think we need to get out of the way, let them do what they want to do, but there's ample space and opportunity for us to still create a pathway so that it's as a direct line as possible, a desired path, if you will, for pedestrian movements from the Canal Place parking lot towards Main Street or over to the plaza or wherever that may be. And honestly, not necessarily the garden club's work, but some of the bushes and plantings that have been there for a number of years, they're really tired and need to be replaced and updated. So I think we should look at that in a more comprehensive fashion when we do the other improvements at the intersection.
I appreciate it, because people are going to take the shortest distance, and whether that's through their nicely planted area or not. So I just appreciate that, and I'm sure they would too.
other comments? Citizen comments? All right, we'll take a motion.
I'll move the approval of Resolution R 7522.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution carried.
Next item on the agenda is a resolution number R 76-22, a resolution authorizing use of city funds and resources to support community special events.
Thank you. Earlier in the year, you'll recall, we did something a little different this year in that we put together a roster of the special events that take place in the public realm in our community and presented it to you, and with that, provided you the costs that we typically incur to provide the city services that support these events. Since we put that before you, we've realized that there are several events that maybe had been occurring historically but didn't occur more recently because of the pandemic, that were omitted from the list, and/or a couple items that are just new. So we're bringing this before you this evening to amend the special event list to include the 5 items shown here, and the cost associated with the 5 collectively totals about a $360 increase. So it's not a significant impact in terms of the services provided, but since we've taken this approach, we thought it would be appropriate to get those on this list and have your acknowledgement of those and that expense before we authorize those events to take place.
Our big expenses for the special events are usually the 4th of July though, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's by far and away the
And then
most
fireworks
expensive.
with,
Yep.
which we like
They're very well received.
very well.
But there are several cities that are banning them. Interesting.
I like ours at end of the year. Those are nice.
And I would say that the fireworks is really a separate expense. This is related more to the personnel services, equipment, labor, those things that if you don't keep track of it, it starts to add up in a hurry.
Sure.
As attested to by the original list, that there's over $100,000 of expenses involved in supporting these events.
Do we track like any miscellaneous requests? I know like you can put in a request for a different event or something of that nature. I don't know how many extra we get a year, but if somebody wanted to hold an event downtown or block a street, a neighborhood block party, I don't know if how often those happen. I know that a lot more of that's starting to come out, which is great, community development in those, but I just didn't see any kind of like miscellaneous line item or if we track those separately.
Yeah, we really focused on the events that are open to the entire public and have a real cost associated to them. Block parties, for example, is typically, it's limited to the neighborhood residents, and it's a very nominal cost. We drop off barricades and then we pick them up.
Okay.
So those don't show up on here, so we tried to kind of draw a line somewhere so that it wasn't
Okay.
a bunch of
I was
other
just
stuff.
kind of curious that, like you said, it could add up if there was 100 a year or 5,
Point well taken. I mean, and we can certainly track those as well, but we haven't included those up to now.
Okay. And I'm sure we know how many requests we get, but thanks.
Yeah.
All right, any comments, commissioners? Citizen comments? All right, I'll need a motion to
I'll make
adopt.
a motion to approve the resolution R-76-22.
All right,
Second?
it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carried.
Next item on the agenda, resolution number R-7722, a resolution authorizing the securement of professional services and funding sources for the modification of the Great Miami River low dams in Piqua. Chris.
Thank you. More or less over the past 4 years, the city of Piqua has been in a conversation with U.S. Fish and Wildlife and subsequently worked with them to jointly complete a planning study to evaluate the long-term viability and level of need to maintain the 2 low dams situated on the Great Miami River in Piqua, Ohio. So the 2 structures are both owned by the city of Piqua, so we have responsibility for the ongoing maintenance of those structures. The low dam north of the community is the one that creates a pool of water for intake, as an intake source for the water treatment plant. And in the study, that one was identified, or the recommendation was that the modification of the structure simply include what they refer to as a rock riffle on the downstream side of the low dam, which would, in effect, strengthen the low dam, but more importantly, in terms of U.S. Fish and Wildlife's concerns, allow for fish passage and safe canoe and kayak passage over that structure and eliminate the hazard on the downstream side of the low dam. To use their verbiage, the constructed riffle will mimic natural riverine feature, allowing paddlecraft to safely pass over the structure while posing no threat to the aquatic life and providing additional riffle habitat where none previously existed. The low dam to the rear of the decommissioned power plant was originally constructed to pool water for the intake and use at the power plant facility. The power plant being discontinued or decommissioned in 1996, and the low dam at this location is essentially obsolete as it relates to the purpose it was originally built for. The recommended modification to this low dam is to remove the structure in its entirety, at least down to the foundation. And by eliminating the dam, the study suggests that one, the future long-term maintenance cost of repairing the dam structure and its adjustable gates will be eliminated. Two, the features and recreational opportunities not previously available will become available for all. And three, safe passage of paddlecraft and fish passage and aquatic habitat will be significantly improved. Additionally, a recommendation included in the study is that there would be upstream rock structures installed to dissipate water velocities and create additional wildlife habitat, new fishing spots, water features for kayakers and canoers to enjoy. Finally, the study suggests that the proposed modifications will have a positive environmental, social, and economic outcomes. As I go through this, the budgeted amount that I've shown here is $100,000. That's what we believe is a reasonable amount to engage the design consultant that would be needed to advance the findings of the study for us to be able to confirm that should we do these things, it will produce the outcomes that have been expressed as desirable by the community. And then the $1.2 million amount that's indicated is what was in the planning study as the expected cost for the rock riffles and the removal of the low dam and the upstream rock placement or the boulder placement. All of this is expected to be funded through the Water Resource Restoration Sponsor Program, which is and also a program available through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. If there are local funds, the expectation is that those would be reimbursed by those two funding sources. So to date, everything that has been discussed, the representatives who were here at our previous work session from the OEPA, who administers the WRSP program, have indicated all of that is eligible for funding, 100% funding through that funding program. So at this point, we have not suggested or introduced anything into the design parameters that would not be something that could be funded through the source identified. If Commission authorizes this resolution, that would allow for us to move forward with engaging a consultant to further the preliminary design work that was conducted as part of the study. And in doing so, the design work will ensure that the power plant low dam removal and in-stream interventions to be included will produce the positive environmental, social, and economic outcomes anticipated by the study, right? So we want to make sure that it does adequately create riffles and play areas and fishing opportunities and all those things that have been mentioned by the community as desirable should this occur. In addition, the study will further advance the preliminary engineering work that has been done by the study and subsequently the consultant who presented at our work session to give us the highest degree of confidence possible that the water elevation would remain at a level that is acceptable. That is, there's 1.5 feet, 2 feet of water in the river, and over a period of time, the erosion activity when the channel renaturalizes to its original alignment would scour it to remove the loose sediments so that it is able to maintain that depth. That said, water levels go up, water levels go down, as we've certainly seen in the recent rain events. That's the nature of the river. So there will be times when there's more water, and there will be times when there's less water. And the study certainly indicates that. But by and large, the river flows at about 1.5 feet of water, and that's its natural state, which is not unlike what you see right now with the gates completely open, because we have one of them that is currently in disrepair. If we're authorized to proceed, we would pursue the sponsorship that's needed through the WRRSP program. At the same time, we are advancing the design discussion. So there would be a small outlay of potentially up to $100,000 of local funds that would be funded through the power system, given that this is a facility that supported a power system asset. And that would allow us to get the answers that we desire to feel confident in moving forward, provided that we are successful in finding the sponsor so that we can use the WRRSP program to receive the $1.2 million to pay for the project improvements. Should all those things occur, the project would move forward. If all those things occur, but there's still a local expense that the city is going to be obligated to incur, we would come back to City Commission for authorization of that additional expense that's outside of the grant dollars.
So if I'm understanding correctly, we may potentially have up to $100,000, what we're kind of guessing at, on the consulting fee for the design process, but that would still be reimbursable if we move forward. If we decide not to move forward, that would be at our expense.
Correct.
Okay.
That is the risk element involved here.
Okay,
But
understood.
the 100,000 gives you clarity and certainty on what those improvements will produce for you, which we already feel pretty confident about, but this will advance it to where it's pretty definitive. The engineering has been done, so you know what the outcome should look like.
And then, do you know with that consulting design, will they be able to almost itemize those different elements so we can see what it is that meets that natural minimum requirements of what we're doing for that dam removal, and also then those additional elements that we're looking at from more of that socioeconomic type of development that may potentially be a local expense?
Yeah, we have talked about bank restoration or some additional weirs or veins, as they call them, to even further enhance the depth of the water, or those riffle play areas, if you will. Those things are all eligible for the WRSP funding, but I'm sure there's a limit as to how far they'll stretch the budget and what they'll let us do.
Did we ask?
Right now, they have not turned us away.
Right.
But you get to a point where now it's a want, not a need, to achieve the mission of that funding program. But by and large, every indication we've gotten is that they're supportive of the types of improvements that are proposed, and they all fit within the funding criteria. If we were to come back and say, we want to add a pedestrian bridge over the river, that's outside of their funding mission. So that would be a local expense. That's not a great example, but you get the idea.
And I understand. I like the idea of them paying for it all, but if there would be a local match, I'd just like to know what that is, and is that something that we'd have to budget for, or would that have to come at a later time? What kind of impact would that be? So, and then who would there be any input from us, your team, the citizens, with those consultants at that point in time, or how's that work?
So the project design development process, if you will, planning is the first piece of that, and that's the community engagement and stakeholder discussions. And then once there's some consensus on what the preferred design alternative is, then it would evolve into the more detailed engineering and transform into bid documents, construction documents, and something that we can go solicit bids for. A certain amount of the planning has occurred with the study that's been completed and the preliminary engineering work that's been done. But certainly, given the high level of interest in this project, as we get into the detailed engineering, there's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 completion of documents. Those are all, they can be brought forward for discussion at Planning Commission, who would ordinarily be involved in a public infrastructure improvement project like this, making sure that it is aligning with the adopted community plans and studies and things that we've presented and talked about. And I'm confident that we could also incorporate into that scope of services stakeholder engagement from the community at large, so that they're staying involved and we're being completely transparent so that they can see that the proposed design is achieving the goals that have been discussed in these public meetings, right?
I think it's a must that citizen engagement has to be a part of this. They have to have a say in what happens. It's not just us or the city. It's got to be citizens.
They have, and
involvement.
they will continue to be
Yep.
involved, absolutely.
My understanding is that the resolution that we're looking at tonight is purely for the securement of professional services.
Not entirely. What we're asking for permission for is to go forward with securing the professional services, but also to identify the sponsorship necessary for securing the WRSP monies. And if the improvements can be fully funded without there being any local obligation, we would be prepared just to move forward. If there's a local obligation, we would return to the commission to discuss that before anything happened.
What I was trying to lead to was that we're not tonight looking at an engineering study for the river and where weirs or different things will be placed. This is a preliminary event.
Yeah, I mean, those professional services will help us identify where the weirs need to be, how many there need to be, what the upstream interventions look like, what bank restoration might be appropriate, all those things necessary to achieve the stated goals and desires of the community that the preliminary plan and preliminary engineering has already indicated can occur and will occur with those type of improvements. Now it just gets into the real nuts and bolts of how to, you have to design it to do those things. Mm-hmm. So the planning and preliminary design work is, 15,000 foot look-see. The detailed engineering gets into the, boots on the ground and real dimensions and so on and so forth.
Any other comments?
Randy Kirshner, 1177 Chevy Lane. All this is well and good, but unless you take a vote for the project to proceed with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, that money's going away, and there won't be any need for a consultant. Typically, their projects last a year. This has been a 5-year project with U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
So can you help clarify that? Because that's where I thought this decision was, we have the full intent to move forward, but contingent of the design to make sure that we are securing the funds appropriately with them. So we're still looking to move forward with that sponsorship, correct? With that one contingency that those funds are, that design is there and those funds are made appropriate, correct?
Yes, this is seeking your full intention to move forward.
So
I wanted it to be understood that there is the local contribution that comes ahead of the funds being committed, that should we not secure the funds, there's that risk element. But yes, the intent is to be able to proceed.
So is there any risk to this gentleman's point that we would potentially, are we delaying it with this consultant to the point to where we wouldn't receive those funds?
No, to the contrary. So this is the next step that is required of us to utilize the funds. U.S. Fish and Wildlife and the OEPA folks, we sat and discussed with them in great detail what is necessary to produce the bidding documents and who is responsible for each of those items. And their indication to us is it's your duty as the locality, the owner of the project, to engage the consultant to prepare the bid documents, the construction documents, and the specifications so that you can actually implement the improvement. It has been a protracted period of time, but they're not suggesting to us that they're pulling the money. But if there's not authorization to go forward with the recommendations and secure the funding henceforward, then they're going to look on it less favorably and they may go elsewhere.
Well,
right?
part of that funding is already there for the engineering work on the part of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. They need some kind of my understanding, they need some kind of motion from you guys to say you want to proceed with this project.
That's what
And
this
it's
is,
not a
right?
problem.
This is, right?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's what I want to clarify too. I think that's a good
Okay.
question.
But it would be nice to see the community take a stance and tell the U.S. Fish and Wildlife that they, specifically, that they want to do that. And that we are, and this is what we are planning on doing with it. That's what I'm saying.
That was my understanding as well.
Yeah.
This vote would show that we're in favor of that dam removal, but we still want to make sure that we're doing it to a level that's acceptable by our community.
But in my opinion, there should be a public statement by this group saying that there should be, that we're in favor of removing that dam.
Understood?
Okay.
If I may, the one clause in the resolution states this: the Piqua City Commission, after considering the probable environmental, social, and economic outcomes the low dam modification projects will produce, desires to authorize the procurement of professional services and funding sources necessary to advance the recommendations of the Great Miami River Dam Removal Feasibility Study. That is the statement.
There it is.
Okay, that's good.
All right.
That wasn't brought out earlier. Or at least I missed it.
No,
All
it's a
right.
good question.
All right.
That's a
Thanks.
great question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other public comment?
I'm Dan French, 1127 North Sunset. I think we just got some clarification. I came tonight because I'm concerned with the language that I'm reading in the resolution and especially in the staff report, which is attached to it. At the end of our work session on the 17th, I heard the City Commission say, we want to move forward, but we want to have design review. And that says to me, well, that's all well and good, but if we don't like the design review, then what? And I hear what Chris has said, and that sounds good. That isn't what the language says, but it sounds good. Now, I worked for the government enough years that if the language doesn't say it, it doesn't exist. So I would urge you all as commissioners to do whatever it takes to have the staff improve the language so that it's pretty clear what the understanding is. Now, if Randy's right and the federal guys are going to take their money away if we don't jump through their hoop in the next X number of days, whatever that is, we kind of would be useful to know that. If we have more time, as Chris has indicated, as long as we're moving forward, that's fine. I'm not opposed to the removal of the low dam. I used to be, but I'm not anymore. But I do think it's important to have the stream improvements and the riffles and the whatever, because a foot and a half of water isn't what I think we ought to have. You know, we've got 6 or 7 feet of water today, and it's nice and wide behind Bennett School, and a foot and a half, that's maybe 20 or 30 feet wide in August, isn't what we're used to, that's for darn sure. And I wouldn't think it's what the citizens would be happy with, or the people who want to build apartments where the Bennett School was, and so forth. So as part of this design project, somebody needs to supervise this design consultant, whoever that is, they're not named yet. Somebody needs to supervise them, and there needs to be some deliverables required that you got to do this and you got to do this. There's got to be some supervision over them to try to get what we want, none of which I see in this language. Because we want to go ahead and we want it to be good. We don't want to be, as Mike Yanessi suggested, none of us will be sitting here 30 years from now, but we don't want somebody sitting here 30 years from now saying, what the hell were those people thinking when they authorized taking that low dam out? We want to build it back. We like our river. Well, let's not allow that sort of thought process to happen. And the way we avoid that is by working with the design consultant, whoever they are, to get what we want. They can put riffles in, they can raise the level of the existing low dam, they can add various things. I'm still concerned that Troy asked for about $5 million, and that's in the design program, and Piqua didn't seem to ask for anything. I don't even see money in there to buy grass seed. But that's yet to be worked out, I hope. Troy had $200,000 in there to provide weirs, as they call them, to try to make a dam and raise the water for the what do you call it? The boathouse, yeah, the Treasure Island. Piqua doesn't have any of that so far that I see. It doesn't mean that it can't happen. The consultants made it sound like it could happen. Chris makes it sound like it could happen. I'm all in favor of that. But I want to please ask you all to be sure that whatever you approve has more review by the City Commission. This specifically says if the consultant, who isn't named yet, finds funding, it will move forward. That doesn't sound like it's going to come back to the City Commission. It says if they find it, drive on. There's nothing in this language that says what we all have said we want. So I would urge you to maybe not approve it as it's written tonight, but to ask the city staff to go back and improve the language so we all understand what we're going to get. I've hired enough consultants that you need to tell them what you want. You need to tell them what the answers are supposed to look like, what the deliverables are, so that they know when they're done and we know when they're done, when they've met our expectations. I don't see that in the language that is before you tonight. You had 16 pages of specifications to buy a dump truck. This is $1.2 million in the future of the appearance of Piqua for the next 30 years, and there's none of that. We don't even know who the consultant might be. It needs more work, in my opinion. Thank you.
Chris, can you attest to any of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be happy to respond. I think just so we're on the same page here, the city of Piqua has an adopted procurement process, right? So if we're securing professional services, the first thing is to do the project, we have to know that the commission wants us to move forward with doing the project. If that is the case, and we've got resolution that says so much, then we would develop the RFP, the request for proposal, that would identify the scope of services and deliverables necessary, including what level of community engagement is expected of the consultant. And when we receive those proposals, they're all providing a number based upon the same thing. They're all responding to the same request. And then we evaluate those proposals to determine which of the consultants are best suited to provide the services that have been requested. And then you can identify which consultant you're going to use to perform the work you've requested to have performed. And you go through that, and the monitoring or supervision comes simply by way of that's what we do, planning and engineering and development. We secure professional services and we administer those projects, that process on a regular basis. That's what your hired professional staff is here to do. And the community engagement piece is built into it by way of our best practices, but also by way of specific scopes or requirements that we might add to a project because of a specific interest or need or want. So in this case, certainly that element of additional public meeting and community engagement will be above and beyond the ordinary take it to Planning Commission for a public hearing, right? So all those things are a part of what we ordinarily do, and it's a part of what we will do if commission declares their intent or want to move forward with the removal of the low dam. Those are the steps that then follow. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's, we can discuss what that community engagement looks like, and then just for me, it's us as a commission keeping updated the whole time that it's going on.
Absolutely.
So that we can make sure that we're meeting our citizens' needs, because, we're there to represent them and to make sure that this is a big impact on our community, and something our businesses as well. We want to just be informed so that we can help provide that input and make sure that we all achieve the outcome that I think we all desire. We want a win-win situation.
Absolutely. And this would not be unlike what we're organizing currently with the the hydraulic canal dam discussion, right? So there's one where the cart got ahead of the horse and there was engineering design discussion happening, and there had not been any planning or public engagement component to that project. And it's neither here nor there, but that's the way a previous department supervisor handled it. What we're doing now is creating a advisory council, which includes the stakeholders surrounding those bodies of water and an elected official and representative from Planning Commission and the utility board, so that we have those persons who are most connected to the broadest range of the community, so that you have that input from the community by way of their involvement in that planning discussion. And then they'll help advise what the preferred alternative is for the solution, and equally be educated on what the implications of that include. So if you want this instead of this, it's going to cost this instead of that. So that's the way it works, or should work. We've not always been, that's not always happened properly, I'll grant you that. But I think we're getting to where we need to be in terms of correcting that. And that's certainly how it will happen for this project.
Thanks. So to address Mr. French's concern, if the consultants come back and say just a flat even $1 million and the funding's there, it's just not going to strictly move forward without any review of what that all includes.
No, the design process is iterative. And so each phase of that design process will bring forward greater level of detail, and that detail will continue to be refined through discussions and dialogue with the stakeholders who are engaged in the process. And so when you have a finished product that's being asked for approval or being presented to move forward, it's based upon the input of the community.
So would we be the ones to get that final approval to move forward then?
To authorize a contract of that dollar amount, we would be required to come before City Commission.
Yes.
Okay.
But it will go to like the Planning Commission for some of the review
Absolutely.
as well, and citizens?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more comments?
I clearly would like the dam removed, but I'd like some of the features to be able to be discussed before the design people just say this is what we can do. We need to be able to have citizens have their input along with what the people designing it are doing as well. And I guess I'm still a little confused about the issue of whether or not if we approve this and they set a limit of $1.2 million, they could walk away from it if they can't secure the funding. Is that correct?
The 1.2 is the estimate that was provided in the study, and those line items are there, and it talks about the in-stream features and so on and so forth. So some of that granular detail is provided. When we go out and look to secure a sponsor, so the way the program works is, I think we talked about the last time, there has to be a water or wastewater treatment plant improvement project somewhere across the state that's occurring that then can be the sponsor for the funding that would be provided to this project as a result of a credit they would receive from OEPA. And so we have to first identify one of those capital improvement projects to be the sponsor, and it has to be of sufficient size and scale to be able to produce the funding necessary to support whatever our final estimate ends up being.
Okay.
Maybe it's 1.2, maybe it's more, maybe it's less, but the design will help us understand what that number needs to be. Obviously, the goal at the end of the day and the intention is that we receive 100% funding from that funding source. And our role is to be responsive to what we've heard in the public work session and what we hear the commission advising as the want for how this should happen and what the outcome should be. And that's how we will administer the project in accordance with those wants and desires to produce the outcomes that are being asked for.
Any other comments? And I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution R77-22.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Now we will move into public comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the City Commission regarding agenda items, issues, or provide information. comments are requested to be limited to 5 minutes, and specific questions should be addressed to the city manager's office. Hello.
Hi, good evening. Joe Thompson. I live on Lincoln Street, but I'm here for my mom who lives on Covington Avenue. The city came in December and had to dig up a storm sewer for S Creek. It goes underneath her yard. So they dug it up, took out the bad one, put in a new one, and put just the construction dirt back, and said they would come back in the spring and finish leveling off her yard. And when Sky Shelley came and initially talked about the process, he said we would put your mom's yard back the way we found it. Well, it's not.
Okay.
And the Underground Utilities Office told me that they consider the project to be done, and there's a big swale in my mom's backyard. So you got 2/3 of it done. You got the trees put back in, you got the sidewalks in. But we're nowhere close to done. And when I talked to a representative last week for the Underground Utilities, he said his boss is considering it done. And I wasn't sure where to go with this. But, you know, she's been here 57 years in the same house, loyal taxpayer, and this is just undue grief that she's had to go through because just not getting satisfied. So I'm looking for help.
What was that?
Address again, please.
Well, her address is 902 Covington Avenue.
Okay.
And you're welcome to go take a look at the yard. But the reason I come before the whole commission, and I didn't address her commissioner specifically, was because I don't know if this is just a one-off for the Underground Utilities and they just didn't do the job right here, finishing it off, or if there's something more and this is pervasive. Maybe they do this with others and nobody else has a voice and brings it to your attention. But I want to make sure you guys understood that the way this was handled was poor.
That's not right.
We're better than this.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware. Okay?
Well, I can tell you personally, I've had some people with concerns because there's going to be projects done in my area, and
live
talked
in your
about
area.
this concern. I know, and overall, I've had nothing but satisfaction in the afterwards.
Good.
City manager, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I'll speak to the utility director tomorrow and have him look into it with me, so I'll go out and take a look.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it attention.
So,
Thank you.
Frank, you have my contact information. If you guys need anything else, you can just feel free.
Sir.
Yep,
All
absolutely.
right, guys?
Good to see
Ladies,
you.
thank you.
Thank you very
Sorry.
much.
Sorry about that.
Any other comments? Okay. City managers report.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. I've got just 3 items this evening. First is an update on Main Street and High Street and the potential improvements there. A couple weeks ago, Chris Meising, myself, the Main Street and Chamber representatives all met with Mr. Quinter and Rob that works in his office to talk about some of the things that they've observed over time with that intersection through their camera that's in their business there. What we did arrive at was that the city in initial engagement didn't really listen to the concerns. There were 3 top concerns that they had that were not addressed with some of the improvements that were made down there. And understanding that we didn't effectively address their concerns, what we did was we made an agreement with them. Now that we have some preliminary idea from the consultant that the development department had engaged with, and putting a temporary 4-way stop sign up there to see what it looks like when you change the stop sign intersection from 2-way to 4-way. Currently, we're working with the consulting firm to get the preliminary drawings to go ahead and move with Phase 1, which would be setting up a temporary 4-way stop there to see what that traffic pattern looks like in addressing some of the concerns that they relayed to us. Part 2 of that is getting some construction drawings put together that we can put out to bid eventually that would address some curb extensions and narrowing down of the pavement at that location to make the pedestrian crossing not as long, so that there's not a need for a refuse in the middle of the refuge, a pedestrian refuge in the middle of the pavement. And part of that temporary change could also be removing the delineators and removing all of the flower pots and everything. But we're going to start with phase one, which would be putting in a temporary stop sign. I can't give you a timeline of how quickly that'll come, but once we get the drawings back from the consultant, our Public Works Department will put up the appropriate signage indicating there's a change in the intersection, and then put up the temporary stop sign. So I appreciated their feedback on that. I think it was a really good meeting to sit down and hear from them personally. My second order of business is just to let the public know that the city offices will be closed June 20th in observation of Juneteenth, which is on Sunday, June 19th. So we'll be closed, the city hall will be closed on Monday, June 20th, in observation of that. And finally, just a bit of good news to end on and wrap up my report. Lock 9 was advertised, and so it's out to bid right now. And so we expect to get those back. And as you heard all evening long, deal with the potential increase in what the bid tabulations are going to be. But through some very tight budgeting this year, I think we're going to be able to meet that and find the funds to move forward with the park. But it's a bit of good news after many years before I got here in the last 16 months hearing about it.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Exactly.
So thank you, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to commissioners. Mr. Commissioner Lee.
Hey, I want to congratulate Kirsten Zimmerman and Adam Kimple on their awards tonight. Known both of them for some time, and they're much deserving and very honorable officers that will put their lives on the line and do what it takes to protect our citizens. And I'm very proud of them, very happy that our police department employs people with such ethics and willing to do the things necessary to save lives. And the second thing I've got is that the Committee on Diversity, or Diversity Committee that we have, will meet next Tuesday. We plan on doing a presentation on June 20th and raise the Juneteenth flag here at the city. I gotta get with the city manager, find out if there's clips and whatnot for the flag itself. But it's gonna be recorded. We're gonna post it on the city website. But if anybody would like to come on June 20th, we're thinking it's gonna be around 9 o'clock. We're going to read a proclamation about Juneteenth that our mayor has signed. Thank you very much. And we'll have several people from the community up, and we're looking for people to just come and enjoy the day with us and raise the flag for that day. So, and another part of that is that we're trying to get some local businesses to fly that flag as well. We've got several that have agreed to do that. Of course, Larry, he was here and then he left. I don't know where he went, but he's got one down at his place, and there are several other places in the city. So we have some flags. If you're a business and you would like a flag to fly on June 20th, contact me. And that's all I have.
Thank you. I have a couple things. Number one, I want to say a special shout out thank you to Mayor Pearson and her son RP and the IT staff from the city. They're trying to teach an old dog new tricks with computers, and I'm on the upward curve of learning, and they've been very helpful with that, and I appreciate it. Secondly, I want to offer a shout out to Aaron Morrison, who was our code compliance officer. I received a couple of emails about high grass, especially at condemned properties, and I know that Aaron has fairly recently inherited that responsibility, and he's responded very well to that. And so the initial concerns have been addressed, and then the ongoing concerns will be ongoing. Thirdly, this weekend, the Johnson Farm and Indian Agency will be holding family days, and it'd be a fun time for kids and families to come out, canal boat rides, and we're not quite ready, I think, for a full tour of the remodeled, redecorated house. That'll be coming up in July, but we're hoping that people will come out on Saturday and Sunday and join us for fun days. And lastly, I bring greetings from PNIC, the Piqua Neighborhood Improvement Corporation, and I always bring a tip of the week, and the tip of the week is turn your porch light on at night. Crime likes darkness, and I think we need to remember to turn our porch lights on and do our part to see if we can't decrease the amount of vandalism and trashing of streets and things. So greetings from PNIC. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Grissom.
One update, I know it's been a while since I've given one on the dispensary. So the state of Ohio did do a random drawing for licenses based on how many were available. That's all out there on the public website. And so for our region, which I'm trying to remember included Miami County, over Springfield area, and a pretty large area, there'd be only 2 licenses available. Piqua got both of those based on the applications and the randomness of the drawing. I believe one would be on Record Road and the other one on 25A out by the car lots and those. That's what's been put out there. They've already gone through the vetting process. The state did to make sure they meet all the requirements that are needed. So just an update there. Those should be coming. And then for me, one thing I'm working on with committee is really just kind of going by that motto that the grass is greenest where you water it. So I'm working with particularly my generation, potentially younger. How do we get people more involved? How do we get them more community oriented, and how can we kind of bring that together? For me, if just 1/10 of our population would dedicate 5 volunteer hours, excuse me, it could make a big impact to our community. And then, it's get more people involved. How can they better their neighborhoods? We've had a lot of neighborhood associations get together doing garage sales, a big advocate to some of those people, but generally my generation hasn't been as involved or actively involved, or even some of the younger, and how can we get them in? So I'm just really, that's something I'm going to be working on and trying to promote. And I know we got a town hall tomorrow and trying to get more people out there, understand what's going on in our community and how can we make it better. So that's all I have.
Thank you. I wanted to take some time tonight to recognize the Four Seasons Garden Club. This group takes care of the flower beds beside the what was formerly the 311 on Main Street, and also the Doss Park. The Greenleaf Club also comprised of 5 volunteers, takes care of the Eagle Planter on Nicklin Avenue. They also handle the French Park hillside and the roses at the Veterans Memorial at Washington and Broadway. They do a great job every year, and they've been doing it for many, many, many years. And we appreciate all that they can do. I also wanted to recognize Amy Welker and her team of four guys that are cleaning up our parks. I've had a couple of people say what a difference the restrooms are in Fountain Park, that they are clean and well stocked. The other thing I wanted to talk about also was Kurt Hemer at the Echo Hills Golf Course. He takes care of all the fairways, the greens, the rough, and the sand traps. And again, everybody's excited about all the good things he's done out there, and I wanted to recognize Kurt as well. Congratulations to Mike Casto for his 32 years of service as an employee here at the city. Great dedication and hard work on his part. A reminder that tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock, actually at 6:30, we're having our town hall. If it's raining, we'll be here at this building in the chambers. And that is all that I had. One more thing, sorry. At the end of this meeting, I am to state to you that the commission meeting, there will be a commission meeting tomorrow night at 6:30 prior to the town hall.
Your Honor, that's scheduled for 7, and we pushed the town hall back to 7:30.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Commission meeting tomorrow night at 7, and town hall's at 7:30.
Is that correct?
Yes, there was some issue with notification, 24-hour notification, so we had to move it back an hour. I apologize.
Okay,
That's fine.
thanks. Just appreciate the clarification. I wasn't sure.
Thank you. All right, at this time, if there are no other comments, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned.